Hey guys, Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina, and hopefully you're ready for another great Sunday night show. Appreciate everybody tuning in and hanging out with us here for our Sunday night live stream show. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you guys and talking fishing, and hopefully you're ready for another great show. We got a lot lined up for you tonight. We got some good photos to go over and a bunch of stuff going on to talk about. So let's get right into things. As always, we're going to kind of start with some photos of what we're catching now, talk a little bit about the weather and what's coming up, and then we're going to get into your questions. If you do have a question that you want answered live during the show, remember, you have to text in that question to this phone number right here. You got to text in your question if you want it answered live during the show. So make sure if you have a question that you want answered, text it in. Also, guys, don't forget, this live show and every live show is brought to you by our friends over at Gator Jim's Tackle. Gator Jim's Tackle, 3301 Pinellas Point Drive South in St. Pete. They are the awesome people that make this show possible, along with our supporters group and all of those of you who are sending stars. Really appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much. With that, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to Nick Nieves with 1,200 stars as we were getting started there. Jason Richmond, Jessica Hinkle, Larry White, Stephen Batchelor, Craig Robinson, and Anthony Smith. Appreciate all those stars. Thank you so much. If you're watching on YouTube or Instagram, just so you know, the stars are just a way for those watching on Facebook to kind of show their support, and it helps kind of make what we do here possible during the show. So Adam Franklin too, appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much for those 500 stars. Now we are going to get into the photos here shortly, but I want to remind everybody, don't forget to comment and tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up on YouTube. Make sure you like the video on Facebook, Instagram. Share the video with your favorite fishing group or timeline, or on your timeline on Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. On Instagram, you can go over to the Instagram website page on your phone's browser and navigate to the Hubbard's Marina Instagram page. You'll be able to view the photo when you turn, or the video when you turn your phone sideways. You'll be able to see the full screen. If you're on the Instagram app, watching through the app, you can't see the whole screen. So just keep that in mind if you're watching on Instagram. Jim Evans, appreciate those stars, buddy. Thank you, man. And then if you want to win some free fishing trips tonight, don't forget, you have to comment at least one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream. You can watch on YouTube, you can watch on Facebook, you can watch on Trovo, Twitch, wherever, but you have to comment one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream in order to be eligible to win one of those free trips. So don't forget about that. And then with that, it's time to get into some photos. Let's see what we've been catching this past week around the docks and around the inshore areas. We've definitely been seeing a lot of those black drums still around local bridges, around the pass, the south side of Johns Pass Bridge, and around that jetty. Been seeing a lot of black drum. The Jack Crevalle still super thick in the back bay waters, especially in the morning time on that outbound tide. We've seen a lot of Jack Crevalle around the pass and along the beaches too. Lots of mackerel action on the deeper grass flats, around the mouth of Tampa Bay, around our local fishing piers, Skyway Fishing Pier, the Gulf Pier of Fort DeSoto, Cortez Pier, Anna Maria City Pier, Big Pier 60, all good areas to pick up those mackerel, even if you don't have your own boat. The mangrove snapper bites picking up. Water's starting to warm up. Definitely starting to see more of those mangrove snapper inshore as we transition away from super thick sheep's head. The redfish bite's been pretty good. We've been seeing a lot of redfish around those mangrove shorelines at higher tides, skipping some dead baits under there. At night, dock lights, bridge lights around the bottom, producing those redfish. This is our buddy Cameron Canner from Salt Strong with a nice big old bull red on the flats, using that soft plastic, working those shallow flats. We've seen a lot of those schoolie-sized fish around our oyster bars and bridges. Definitely a pretty steady redfish bite along those mangrove shorelines, oyster bars, grass flats. Shark action is heating up as water warms up. We're seeing more and more of those sharks, and that trend should only continue. Lots of snook. Lately, the snook bite's been really good, especially these kind of schoolie-sized snook, anywhere from the passes to the back bay. Super, super active. Bridge lights and dock lights at night. During the day, dock lines, grass flats, points, all those areas those fish can stage up and ambush passing bait. Lots of decent sized schoolie fish around the flats, and just very actively feeding snook for sure. Some pretty big trout lately too. It's definitely been some monster trout submitted for our weekly news forecast around the area. Edges of the flats, deeper grass flats. They're sitting in around 3 to 6 foot of water right now, it seems like. And it's a pretty active trout bite. So real good bite on snook, decent redfish, pretty steady trout, lots of jack crevalle, and plentiful mackerel inshore. Let's work our way near shore and show you guys what we've been catching near shore on our 5 and 10 hour trips, and also offshore on our longer range trips. It's been windy. It's been real windy as of late, and we've been really struggling to get out there, but we've been able to find some weather windows, and that east wind kind of cooperated for us, allowed us to get out there more. We've been seeing a lot of those mangrove snapper. The mangrove snapper bites picked up quite a bit on our 10-hour all day. We're fishing deeper, catching more of those mangrove snapper, some vermilions, plentiful lane snappers, some big porgies. We've had a better shot at those keeper red grouper as of lately too, which has been a welcomed sign on those 10-hour trips. We're also seeing a lot of kingfish trolling on the way out on our 5-hour half day, flatlining during the 5-hour half day, 10-hour all day. We're still seeing some hogfish. Hogfish bite overall has kind of slowed down a little bit, but we're still getting them. Here's one of those 10-hour keeper red grouper, pretty solid fish for that 10-hour all day. We've been seeing quite a few of those here and there. And some really prolific kingfish and mackerel from the nearshore waters around the beach all the way out to about 80 foot. Mackerel are super thick with some kingfish mixed in. As we get deeper, more and more kingfish, and those mackerel fade away. There's a solid red grouper from our 39-hour trip that got back in this morning. Real fat red grouper. We caught and released a lot of big gags on this recent trip, unfortunately, but still exciting to see them and catch and release them. Here is a 5-hour half-day kingfish from the flat line, another 39-hour red grouper. There's a private fishing charter hogfish, fat red grouper from the long range trip, one of those catch and release gags from the 39-hour before last. There's a nighttime red grouper from a private fishing charter, a 5-hour kingfish, catch and release grouper. Definitely been seeing those gag grouper caught and released lately, unfortunately, but still good to see them for sure. Lots of red snapper caught and released as of late. There's a sand tile fish. That is a sand tile. Real good eating fish. Our good old strawberry grouper. That's actually a rock hind. Strawberry grouper still common named, but a Graysby, rock hind, red hind, all referred to as strawberry grouper, but that is a rock hind. Nice big old mangrove snappers from our 39-hour trips. The 12-hour nights have been doing pretty good when they're able to get out there. Unfortunately, the last one couldn't because of that weather. But some solid red grouper definitely on those long-range trips as of late. There's two different real fat red grouper. Believe these are all from our 44-hour trip that returned Easter Sunday. So our last weekend long-range trip. Fat hogfish. That was from the 44-hour. Beautiful, beautiful fish. So that was a week ago today. Gorgeous. Some big yellowtails lately. The yellowtails have definitely picked up, and we're excited about that. So adding some color to the box with those yellowtails for sure. And we've been seeing them on the 39-hour, 44-hour, a couple of them on the 12-hour extreme. But definitely some solid yellowtail snappers, along with that increase in the mangrove snapper and a pretty solid red grouper bite too. Pelagic wise, we're catching those blackfin tuna. We're seeing some of those kingfish, and you have a shot at those wahoo too. So definitely a good time to get out there and try to capitalize on some good eats. Tim Dykes, appreciate those 600 stars. Appreciate it, Tim. You're the man. With that, we talked about the photos. Let's see who won our first free trip of the night. Let's give away a free trip. Then we'll get into our weather. So let's switch it up tonight. We'll give away our 10-hour all-day first. Let's see who won our 10-hour all-day for 2 guests. That is a $238 value. Eddie Chaps from Ozona, Florida. Congratulations, buddy. That's ironic. That is his second win of today. He and his son were at our Bass Pro Shop seminar, and his son was the lucky winner of a 10-hour all-day for 2 guests. And tonight, Dad won. It's good luck to take your kid fishing or take him to a fishing event, apparently. That's pretty awesome. Random name generator strikes again. That's pretty cool. All right, so with that, let's talk a little bit about the weather. Show you guys what we've been seeing weather-wise and what's coming up. Definitely some good weather finally on the horizon, and we're excited about that. So we're going to pop over to the Hubbard's Marina website. Right on our Hubbard's Marina website, you can go to fishing trips. And once on our fishing trips menu, you can scroll down where it says weather links. And that's going to bring you to our weather links page. You'll see the NOAA forecast, the wind finder forecast. You'll see our webcams, our buoy links, our tide information, weather modeling, forecast radars, and our ultimate storm forecast page. I always like starting up here under the wind finder forecast. Let's just start by looking at what the 5 and 10-hour forecast area says. Look at that. Finally, some dark blue, some light blue. It's not all green for the first time in a very long time. So today is Sunday. It's calming down, and tomorrow is going to be 2 foot or less. This is all inshore still, guys. Tuesday is looking good, 2 foot or less. Wednesday is flat calm. Thursday is flat calm. Picks up a little bit Friday with an east wind, but not too bad. Still 2.5 foot or less. And then it gets real nice again for Sunday. Really just 2 foot or less as far as the eye can see inshore. So that is our 5 and 10 hour forecast area. So little breezy Thursday, super late I would say really just a little breezy Friday morning, Saturday morning, and a little bit Monday, but 2 foot or less after starting Tuesday, basically. So super exciting. Even tomorrow is about 2.5 foot. So gorgeous little weather window ahead near shore for the 5 and 10 hour area. If we bump it out a little deeper, look at a little further from shore, it is going to get a little bit more bumpy because of that east wind. So Monday is 3.5 foot offshore and deep water. But besides that, Friday it picks up a little bit, 3.5, but not too terrible. Little bumpy through the weekend. So yeah, even on our offshore report, really 3.5 is all we see. So look at all of that. Not even really high green numbers there. So that's a really good forecast for that offshore area. So exciting stuff for sure. And excited to finally get a little break in this weather window. And it looks like we might be able to sneak out there for our slow pitch jigging trip. The weather's getting better and better. So exciting news, to say the least. We finally get a little break from all this wind. And I'm just hoping and praying, keeping my fingers and toes crossed, that holds true and we're able to sneak out there over the course of the next 9 days and enjoy that great weather and all the good fishing we've been seeing. Just haven't been able to get out there to them, unfortunately. All right, so with that, let's talk a little bit about your questions. So hopefully you guys have some questions. Don't forget, in order to be eligible to win some of those free trips, you do have to comment one time. But if you want a question answered live during the show, you have to text us at that phone number right there. So comment one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream in order to be eligible to win. If you're picked as a lucky winner, you got 5 minutes or less to text us at this phone number. And then if you want a chance to have a question answered live during the show, got to text us at that phone number as well. So make sure you do that. All right, so with that, let's get into some questions. We are going to have our friend Captain Mike give us a shout here in a minute to talk about some inshore fishing. But before we do that, we are going to look at some swell questions. When is your grouper season open for gags? For this year, for 2022, gag grouper season will be open June 1st, same day as red snapper season, June 1st until the end of December. So June 1st to December 31st for those gag grouper for this year. Next year, not so much. Gonna get a little funky next year, but we are definitely having a 6-month gag grouper season this year, June 1st through the end of the year. From what I've been able to ascertain, at least. Looking forward to that. All right, so let's see here. What other questions do we have? Hey, this is Cadence, just saying hi. Hey, Cadence, thanks for watching. She's one of our young anglers who is very, very hooked on fishing and good at it. So shout out to Cadence. Thanks for watching. Any kings being caught around the Skyway in numbers? Yes. Yeah, there's guys who know what they're doing out there on the Skyway fishing pier, and they're catching some decent keepers, kingfish from the Skyway. At least a few people who really know what they're doing, you're able to pull that off. But from the Skyway all the way to 280 foot of water, we're seeing those kingfish, and we're catching kingfish in pretty good numbers. It's a little hit and miss if you're going to try to target kingfish around the Skyway. But the guys that are out there putting in the time, putting in the hours, they're catching them. Might not be catching huge numbers of them, but they're definitely seeing them around the Skyway. How do you pick the correct assist hooks for slow pitch jigging jigs? There's really no science behind that. So all about the assist hooks is really trying to ascertain the size of your jig. If you're using a really tall, long jig, you can get away with using bigger assist hooks. If you're fishing deeper water, you might want to only use a single assist hook. If you're fishing a little shallower, like less than 300, 400 foot of water, a lot of people use double assist hooks. I use double assist hooks on the top and bottom of my jig, and I typically use anywhere from a 1 to a 5-aught assist hook. 9 out of 10 times, it's a 3, 4, 5-aught assist hook. Most of the time, it's just a 5-aught assist hook. But if it's a smaller jig, and you got to make sure your assist hooks can't touch. So if I have assist hooks at the top of the jig and bottom of the jig, those assist hooks shouldn't be able to touch or snag each other. If they're getting close, I get a little smaller assist hooks. And I just visualize that before I rig them up on the jig. So kind of lay them next to the jig, and if they're too big and they're getting too close together, you got to go smaller. So like on those super small, like 60, 80, 100 gram jigs, especially the shorter, fatter ones, most of the time you're going to need like 1 to 2-aught assist hooks, or sometimes you just got to go with one set of assist hooks at the top. So it depends on you and what you're targeting in depth of water, but how you choose is based on the size of the jig and depth of the water. Deeper waters beyond 400 foot, want to think about going to single assist. Under 300 foot of water, typically double assist, and then from there, it's the size of the jig. You want to make sure those hooks can never touch. And I always start by stripping off whatever's provided on the bait, on the jig. Take that off first, and then I put a triple assist or a triple split ring on with the assist hooks that I want, so that way I can make sure the assist hooks completely match. Because if you have different pairs or different sets of assist hook on either side of the jig, it's not going to act right, it's not going to fall right, and you're not going to be as productive. So you want to have a slow pitch jigging rod to give the jig the recoil that it needs to behave properly, and you want to have matching assist hooks. If you only use a single assist hook on the bottom, you can only use a single assist hook at the top. You want to make sure the assist hooks match. It's super, super important. So that way it gives the jig the proper thing. It's just like if you were working a jig inshore, you don't want to use a small treble hook on the front of your mirror lure and a large treble hook on the back. It's not going to let that jig act properly, swim properly, and it's the same idea with those offshore slow pitch jigging jigs. And any jig offshore, a lot of people ask me these questions, and I'm like, well, think about flats fishing. Would you do that on the flats? And they're like, no, of course not. So you got to think like that. It's the same thing. You're just artificial jigging or using an artificial jig in a much deeper water in a much different setting, but it's still the same idea. It's got to act naturally to get that fish to chew. And speaking of artificial lures, we got the man, Capt Mike Anderson, on the phone. How you doing, Mike?
I am good, my friend. How are you this evening?
Tired, but good.
I bet.
Yeah, burning at both ends. The show sounded good this morning. Mahoney behaved himself. Well, kind of.
Yeah, I heard it was a good show. I had a lot of people text me and tell me it was a good show, so
yeah,
that's cool. Good.
Yep, and yesterday went well. We had Captain Frank on our Saturday morning show with us, and it was a good time. We missed you, though.
I listened to you guys on my way to my event. So
okay.
You guys did sound good. Yep.
All right, cool. Well, how you doing, man? What have you been up to this week? What's going on out there in the world of inshore Tampa Bay?
Well, it's been wind.
Same,
pretty
so
much been the
same
note,
same
yeah.
stuff, different day, huh?
Yeah, it's been the wind. It looks like we're going to get a little bit of a break. I hope. Looks like it's going to come down a little bit here this week. So
yes,
hopefully we can get out and do what we do a little bit. You know, I mean, it's hard if you as a charter captain, you always try to put people on fish. You want the experience to be good. You know, I tell people all the time, the one thing we just can't control, we can't control the bite. Some days they chew good. Some days they don't. Sometimes they don't chew for the first couple hours of a trip, but they chew in the last couple hours. Sometimes you catch, a bunch of fish early and then the bite turns off. So that's really the one thing in what we do for a living that you can't control.
Well, that and the weather, man.
And the weather, exactly. Yeah.
I always say we guarantee an excellent client experience with superior guest service, and then they look at you like, what is he going to say? I can't control the weather and I can't make fish bite. And then they laugh. And you just hope they remember.
That's exactly the truth, though.
Yep, that's it. So I know you wanted to talk a little bit about some catch and release. I know we have some crazy stuff going on at the FWC meeting coming up here May 3rd and 4th, talking about some pretty significant redfish changes. Some people really like it. Some people really hate them. Definitely going to be a little bit contentious, going from 8 fish vessel limit to 2 fish, not changing the bag limit in our area, but in some areas they're increasing the bag limit in some areas like Indian River Lagoon. They're totally making it catch and release only. And that's new in Indian River Lagoon, to my knowledge, right?
It is. It's new, but that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I think what we need to do, and the reason I wanted to make sure we kind of touched on this tonight, and I'm not against keeping fish when and if a fishery is in really healthy shape. But the fishery here in Tampa Bay, and we're catching fish inshore. I mean, there's redfish being caught, there's snook being caught, there's trout being caught. There's no arguing that.
Yeah.
But the reality is we have areas on Tampa Bay that normally hold fish that are not currently holding the fish that they would normally do because of recent events. And I worry that the fish that are here are getting extra pressure. They're getting beat up pretty badly. And I think, as somebody who loves the outdoors, I think it comes down to, wanting this resource to be sustainable. I'm really disappointed that we've reopened snook, redfish, and trout in the Tampa Bay area just because of last year's events.
Yeah.
The Pinellas Point area it's just not showing any fish. I mean, they're just, a fish here and a fish there. I mean, there should be areas there where you can, you shouldn't have to leave the guides who are doing it for a living. And if I'm being honest, some of them are part of the problem, in my opinion, because they're taking limits for their clients just at will, and that's, it's not illegal. So, good for you guys, but the long-term health of your fishery, the long-term health of your business should be a concern of yours.
Yeah.
It's a concern of mine for y'all, for them more than it is me, because I'm closer to the end than I am the beginning. Some of these guys are young, captains that have just started here in the last 3, 4, 5 years. You got another 25, 30 years of this. And if you don't take care of the fishery now, it's not going to be here.
Yeah.
It's just not. And we can't, I don't think we can rest on, assuming that our leadership in our government is going to do the things necessary to cut back on the amount of red tide episodes that we're having. I mean, I haven't seen proof of it.
Yeah.
I know Governor DeSantis is working towards those things, but so, I just want people to think about it. The guides, the fishermen, the recreational anglers, all of us. It's something that we need to think about.
And it's also important fish handling too. That's one thing that I think we need to really
For
focus
sure.
on too, because you can catch and release all the fish you want, but if you're taking that snook out of the water and letting them flop on the deck 17 times and wrestling them around with a towel and a pair of needle nose pliers and hanging them up in
Right.
the air for an Instagram photo shoot, you might as well throw him in the fish box dead, because he's not going to have a high chance of survival. So you got to really think like a conservationist. If you're going to be catching and releasing, you can take a photo shoot, but make it quick and get that hand wet, support its belly, all of that good stuff. And then take that conservation mindset with you when you go offshore. You catch an undersized red grouper and out of season red snapper, don't let them flop around on the 95-degree non-skid deck for 3 minutes while you fumble around to find your phone to take a photo of that fish. You got to hurry up and get that fish back in the water, especially in the summertime when the water's hot.
The great Mark Nichols from DOA Lures, the inventor of DOA Lures, who is an absolutely amazing, many, many years ago, DOA Lures was one of the sponsors of the TV show. And I had the opportunity, along with Captain Billy Nobles, when Billy was doing the show with me, we spent a lot of time over there filming shows with Mark. And Mark had a rule, and his rule was real simple. When you take that fish out of the water, you, the angler, start holding your breath.
It's a good rule. And
you start holding your breath. When it's getting tough on you, pal, it's getting tough on that fish. So if you're not ready to take that picture, then you know what? Maybe today you just got a memory. You didn't get a photo,
Yeah.
and it's time to release that fish because your phone wasn't, where it needed to be. The camera, back then it wasn't all on phones. Most of the time we were trying to take pictures with cameras still. And that's, that's just something we need to think about.
Yeah.
I enjoyed our Bartow Ford fishing conversation, you and Mahoney, and you getting into the whole barotrauma thing and inventing those fish. And we really need to do a great job as outdoorsmen in making sure that we're releasing these fish healthy. Because it's important. And if you are, let's say you are taking a few fish. Well, I hope that you're catching more than a few. You took a few home, but you released a few. We need to make sure those ones you release are getting back into the estuary and thriving, because we need those fish for you to have another day like that down the road.
Amen. And it also speaks to the importance of taking care of the resource, just because the number of people out there on the water. There's a lot more people getting involved
100%.
with fishing, and that's great. We want everybody to be out there fishing. But in order to be out there fishing, we all got to take care of the resource, especially if you're out there catching and releasing, because a fish can only survive so many times being flopped on deck and thrown around. You got to really make sure that you're careful with that fish, especially when the water's hot. Hot water holds less DO, what they call DO, or dissolved oxygen, and cooler water holds more dissolved oxygen. So when it's cooler, that fish can rebound a lot quicker and come back to life a lot more quickly. Whereas when you take them out of the water in the summertime, it's stupid hot on the deck of your boat. Most of the time, you wouldn't walk around on your deck of the boat with your shoes off. Some of us crazy people who do it for a living can handle it, but normal average Joe stepping on a fiberglass non-skid deck in the brutal summertime heat, it's extremely hot. So you let that fish flop around there and lose its whole slime coating as you fumble around for your camera or your needle nose pliers. You're just really doing a disservice to the fish. Have it ready
100%.
and use a dehooking tool. That's another big one, because not only making sure you're keeping it out of the water for the shortest amount of time possible, making sure that you have everything and you're properly handling the fish, but proper dehooking is big too. And a dehooking tool is awesome.
That really comes into play with the speckled trout.
Yep.
Because it's been a scientific fact that the handling of speckled trout greatly reduces our ability to set them free and their ability to live thereafter. So it's really important, wet hands. If you have to handle them all, wet hands. I've got to the point with my dehooker that a 14, 15, 16-inch trout, we don't even handle it.
Yep.
We just, we're just using the dehooker, flipping that fish right back into the water, and they swim off. It's all good. You never even had to touch them. And that's how that needs to be.
But just to rewind, did you just quote a scientific research project?
I might have.
All right.
Listen, I love the scientific work that has been done. I'm a big fan of it, but I'm not a fan of. No, I'm not a fan. I just don't think we've done enough.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm all about
agree.
I'm all about more science. What irritates me is that we're making rules based on the science we have isn't quite where it needs to be yet.
The Great Red Snapper Count was a $12 million project for 2 years of research on one species.
Right.
That was the entire budget of the Southeast Fisheries Science Center for surveys. And that science center is responsible for the entire South Atlantic, Caribbean, and Gulf. So from North Carolina to Brownsville, Texas, to the U.S. Virgin Islands, that science center is responsible for that entire area. And their entire survey budget for 1 year was dwarfed by the Congress doing that Great Red Snapper Count for one species in one area, the Gulf of Mexico. That's how messed up our scientific budget is in the federal fisheries. The state does a big job. They put a lot of money towards fisheries science, and Governor DeSantis has definitely helped aid that, and that's why we have the Gulf or the State Reef Fish Survey, and we're able to get the effort data we're able to get and how they're able to add red snapper days for private rec anglers later in the year. But that's a whole nother show.
Sure. We'll get to that. We'll get to that on some Saturday morning. Yeah. Well, and that's my only complaint is we need, with fishing being the number one participation sport in the country, more people fish than play golf and tennis combined. The amount of money that they actually put behind it is pathetic.
Yeah.
It's truly pathetic. I mean, we need, for something that impacts so many Gulf states financially, you would think they'd put more effort to it.
Yeah, DeSantis said in his press release about announcing the private recreational season for red snapper that $13.08 billion is the economic impact for fishing in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
And we're going to spend. And how much did they spend on the
$12 million is a survey budget for the Southeast Fishery Science Center.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's great. Yeah, that's my issue. It's not the science that we do have. I know that a lot of the scientists. I'm a big believer in what Dr. Barbieri and his people do over there at the Marine Research Institute.
Yeah.
And I'm also a big proponent of they don't have enough budget. They just don't have enough budget. We waste money in so many places. It's pathetic when we could be helping these people who, by the way, are underpaid and love to do their job.
Yeah.
Those people, marine biologists, do not make a bunch of money. They love to do what they do for a living. They love it. They don't do it for the money. They're not getting paid like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. They do it because they love it. That's their passion.
You can't compare Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers' compensation, all right?
Listen, they're all making millions. They're all making millions, bro. That's all I'm saying. I understand they're two different tax brackets, but I'm telling you, they're all making millions. So just like our politicians. So I mean, to me, that's the issue. Is that we need to be putting more funding. We need to get more funding driven in the right places that benefits
enforcement too. Enforcement,
for sure.
Because you can have all the best science in the world.
100%.
The best science drives good management decisions, but you can make all the best scientific data in the world to make the best management decisions in the world, but without enforcement, it means nothing. So,
amen. And that's a whole nother show we could do.
Yeah, there's 17 NOAA officers. There's 17 NOAA officers from, again, North Carolina to Brownsville, Texas, to the U.S. Virgin Islands. 17.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's horrible. But we don't want to depress people this late in the evening. We need to be positive. But anyway,
I'm positively depressed.
No wonder we get along so good.
Yeah.
I just, again, it's just, and the more people that know about this stuff, the more people we get on board, the more people we get thinking this way, and voting this way, I think the better off we're going to be. So,
amen.
It's a blessing to have a show like yours with so many people watching, so many people listening and dialed in and tuned in, and you do such a great job, Dylan, of getting the word out there. You got to just keep up the good work, my friend. Your energy is very, very impressive, and it's something that the whole fishing community here in the entire state of Florida should be grateful for.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, man. And I will see you this Saturday, or not this Saturday. Yeah,
no,
right.
I'm gonna have to hobble in there and see if I can do one without you. It may be hard. I've gotten very comfortable with the big fella sitting next to me, but we'll try to fight our way through it.
All right, brother. Well, good luck to you, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Appreciate the time, my friend. Have a great week on the water. We'll chat.
All right, man. See you.
All right, buddy. See you.
So, pretty comical. People talking about, I thought this was a politics show. Dude, since when did good fishery science become anything but related to fishing? If you think that talking about how we need more fishing science is a bad thing and it's political, you can exit the show stage left, because that's crap. Definitely crap. That's super frustrating, because everybody's like, we don't have a long enough red snapper season, and I don't believe in the data. But then when we're talking about trying to get better fishery science and trying to take care of the resource, people are complaining that this is a fishing show. Get back to talking fishing. That's the problem with our fishery. That's Amazing. Thanks for making a perfect example of what's wrong with our fishing, Mike D. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Way to be a great example. Woo! Shaken upset. Moving on. Let's get back into some questions. Josh didn't even give me the no sign. He knew I was upset. Almost threw my laptop. What is the size of a keeper blue runner? There's no size limit or bag limit. It's a bait fish. So catch them up. What's a good place to get jigging equipment as far as buying it? We have tons of jigging equipment at Hubbard's Marina. We have slow pitch jigging rods, slow pitch jigging reels. We have all the split rings, assist hooks, all the slow pitch jigs that you need. Tons of stuff right there in our office. So stop on by. We can show you how the rods work, how to set up the reels, how to set up the split rings to the definitely important ball bearing swivels. So you want ball bearing swivels so you go braided line to a line-to-line knot, preferably FG, PR bobbin, the reverse Albright, and then about maybe 8 to 12 foot of fluorocarbon, right around 50-pound test is a good starting place. Ball bearing swivel, split ring, assist hooks on that split ring, your jig, assist hook, or split ring assist hook on the bottom of the jig. That's how you kind of rig for your slow pitch jigging to start. And then you can change size of jigs, weight of jigs, all that good stuff as you get dialed in. Let's give away another free trip. We're going to give away our 5-hour half day. We give away a 10-hour all day first, right? Right, Josh?
Yep.
I think so. So we're going to give away our 5-hour half day now. Right after we switch this screen. And let's see here. All right. You ready, Josh?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So lucky winner of our 5-hour half day for 2 guests is Whitney Reese Ensley. Congratulations, Whitney. Remember, if you're picked as that lucky winner for one of these free trips, you got 5 minutes or less to choose, or 5 minutes or less to claim that free trip by texting us at that phone number right here. So real important, make sure you claim that free trip. Whitney, you got 5 minutes or less to claim that free trip. All right, let's get back into some of these questions. Jig fishing, you need to bring back your quest from about a year ago. What? Not
Talking about German.
Oh, my guest. I got you. Need to bring back a guest to talk slow pitch jig fishing. All right, we can work on that. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? Captain John, what in your opinion is the best average size mullet for king fishing? Everybody's excited for that King of the Beach tournament coming up this upcoming weekend. I mean, typically you're trolling a really big black mullet for kingfish bait. We don't do a lot of slow trolling big live baits for kingfish. We're not tournament fishermen. We strictly stick to our charters and our party boat trips, and we run out and make some memories during King of the Beach. But definitely slow trolling big live baits is a great way to target big tournament winning fish. A lot of times big tournament teams will use kite baits, some ballyhoo or some cigar minnows way out away from the boat. They'll be slow trolling 1 or 2 lines up at the surface. They might be slow trolling 1 or 2 lines on downriggers. So definitely a lot of work. You can just keep it simple, maybe slow troll 2, maybe 3 lines out the back staggered, and you're just kind of bumping it in and out of gear to keep that line tight enough to where those baits aren't going to get tangled up behind the boat. But you want to use a very large black mullet, or you can even get away with silver mullet, but black mullet are typically preferred. But you want to use probably a 12 to 18 inch fish, like a pretty hefty one. And you can also use those mackerel again, but you got to make sure they're keeper sized. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? In your opinion, do you think a venting tool is a good option compared to a descending device? A descending device is going to be the best option for most anglers. On our boat, in our application, where there's a lot of lines in the water, a lot of people fishing, it's kind of tough to use a descending device, especially if the current's running really heavily. But a descending device is definitely easiest. It just clips onto the mouth, those sequelizers that you can get absolutely free by going to returnemright.com, or .org, excuse me. So returnemright.org, return, the word return, right, the word right.org. You can go to that website and get free descending devices. The sequelizer is a really, really great option. It just clips onto the lip, and you can send that fish back down. But if there's a lot of lines around you, it can kind of make it a little tricky. But it's really easy to use. Anybody can do it. There's no poking a hole in the side of the fish. You can't injure the fish using a descender device. Venting, you can kill the fish if you do it wrong, or if you stick the venting tool in the wrong place. You can over-penetrate and stick that venting tool into other important organs. So venting is definitely a little bit more of an advanced technique, but you're not going to tangle people around you, and it's really quick and super efficient. So when catch rates are high and there's more people fishing, venting is preferred. So we typically do venting on our trips because we're trying our best to teach everybody. And if you see someone who needs help, you see fish floating down the side of the boat, talk to the crew, point it out to the crew, the captain, and we will try to address it and make sure everybody is experts, or at least learning how to vent, because we definitely don't want to stand by and let fish float away not doing well. So make sure, keep your eyes out, and help everybody become good stewards and learn how to vent or descend fish. All right, let's see what other questions we might have here. You should,
Did you want to read that one?
I don't know. Should make a special trip with one of your boats, Capt Mike and Capt Mike Mahoney, and do your fishing conversation. Yeah, that would be fun. That's a good idea, and do it out in the water. That's an interesting one. We are doing a trip with Captain Mike, or with just Mike Mahoney, the legendary Mike Mahoney. We were supposed to do it last week, Thursday, had to cancel due to weather. But we've got another one coming up May 17th. We're going to be out with him. That's a Tuesday. And that's going to be recorded and put on his Tales from a Dark Side TV show. So we're excited about that for sure. Looking forward to our 39-hour trip. Any help on trolling tips? So keep in mind the 39-hour is a bottom fishing trip. We're going out there bottom fishing. So definitely that's our focus. And if you want to troll on the way out, you can, but you need a bigger, larger reel in order to be able to troll. Definitely a 2-speed is a good idea. 50 wide, 80 wide, 2-speed. And then keep in mind that you need to make sure that you have some proper tackle in the form of, you need to make sure you have some 80-pound mono in that reel, minimal 60-pound mono with an 80-pound leader. And you need to be able to reel that fish in while the boat's moving. You catch a mackerel, a 20-pound kingfish, a bonita, you got to retrieve that fish while that boat's moving 7 to 9 knots. So you need some hefty tackle. An Avid Raptor would probably be a good option, especially a 2-speed. So as long as it's one of those bigger Avid Raptors. I think there's a bunch of different sizes of the Raptor, but the bigger one, 2-speed, should be fine. I have a 30 to 80 pound rod, looking for a 2-speed low gear reel, maybe an Avid Raptor. Yeah, I mean, a 30 to 80 pound rod, I would be using a Saltiga LD50 on there. An Avit Raptor might be a little too big for a 30 to 80. I'd be using that more on like the big, large 50, 80 wide size Raptors. I'd be using those on like more of an all glass broomstick 8-footer for amberjack and big gags, whereas I'd be using on a lighter 30 to 80, I'd be using that more for like medium gags, red snapper, big red grouper with a Saltiga LD50. But there's a bunch of different size Raptors, so as long as you're not getting that huge monster and putting it on there, you should be fine. Let's see what other questions we might have here. Getting to the tail end of things, so Melinda, oh, cool. A look down. We'll share that next week. That's pretty cool. What can I expect on Tuesday's 10-hour trip? Tuesday's 10-hour trip, we could expect some of those mangrove snappers, some lane snappers. Right now, on our 10-hour all day, we're fishing anywhere from about 80 to about 100 foot of water. 80 to 100 foot is where we're kind of focused. Seeing a lot of those lanes, mangroves, vermilions, porgies, always seeing a bunch of the white grunts or gray snappers. And then you have a good shot right now at those keeper red grouper and a couple hogfish. So a lot of the white grunts, porgies, some vermilions, some lanes, some mangroves, couple of those keeper red grouper and hogfish. That's kind of what we're looking at from most to maybe least commonly caught. So the Shimano 2-speed is a great option too. The Talica, excuse me, the Talica 2-speed is very comparable to the Saltiga. I think, in my opinion, the Saltiga is almost the exact same and is considerably cheaper, or at least it was considerably cheaper. Now it's a little cheaper, not much, but still a little cheaper. What would be your best trip for red snapper in June? The only public trips for red snapper, the only trips we're advertising you have a chance to catch red snapper would be our 12-hour extreme trip on the Flying Hub 2, the 39-hour, or the 44-hour. 10-hour all day, you don't have a shot for red snapper. Do not book a 10-hour all day and expect red snapper. 12-hour night trip, you might get red snapper, but we don't really get out there super deep. So you might catch a red snapper, but definitely not super guaranteed. So shoot for that 12-hour extreme trip. Shoot for the 39-hour trip, the 44-hour trip. You're going to have a much, much better chance for sure. All right. Let's see. Everybody was saying, bless you, God bless you. I was like, what's happening? It's because I sneezed. That's funny. Survive the... What?
No idea.
Someone said, you're a beach mermaid. Did you survive the bug bites? They must have a wrong number. Or someone, you know what probably happened? What? One of our staff members gave someone our phone number of the office. That's a fake number.
Probably.
That's what it sounds like. But I don't know. We've been getting some weird texts lately on this old text line. Some of you supporters saw that today in the supporters group. Got a great deal on the Saltist LD20 2-speed conventional reel. What is a good rod to pair it with? That is a extremely small reel. I would pair that up. Me personally, I was gonna buy one of those and put it on a level 0 or power 0 slow pitching rod. That's an extremely small reel, but a very light, extremely light rod is what I would put it on. If you were going to bait fish with it, I think it's Telemar. I forget. Shimano makes this really light rod. Daiwa has some of. You could put it on a fast pitch jigging rod. Penn Carnage something like that, something super light, so that reel you can enjoy its small, compact size for sure. So that's what I would make sure you're putting it on something to where you're getting the advantage of buying such a small, compact size reel. The 20 to 40 class red wrapped bull bay rod we have would work, but even that, not that one, Josh, the conventional version, that's a spinner. But it's definitely going to be a little heavy for it. But I don't know. There's a lot of options for you out there. I would go with something extremely light, though, to answer your question. I don't know the brand name right off the top of my head. All right, next question. How come you don't have a live guest anymore? We do sometimes. It just kind of got out of the habit, especially now that we tried to clean things up a little bit. But we definitely need to get back into having guests. It's just I've got the radio show going on Saturday mornings, and coordinating the Fox 13 thing, the radio show, and the live show became difficult. So just started doing the shows by myself. It's quick and easy, and it's only an hour, so it makes it a little easier to do it myself and have a few call-ins. But we will switch it up. I was talking to Frank today about maybe coming back on the show, and or yesterday I was, and potentially having some more people, but still going to kind of keep it in between the lines. Fished on a bunch of 39-hour trips. I was going to do an extreme trip before red snapper. What's the biggest difference to expect in the fishing? There's a huge difference between the 39-hour and 12-hour extreme. The biggest difference is the fact that the 12-hour extreme runs out there really, really fast, and then you have a narrow window of fishing time. You don't have that nighttime bite. You don't have that sunrise bite. You don't have the sunset bite. You just kind of have early morning, just after sunrise, through kind of midday. We basically fish anywhere from around like 7:30 to about anywhere from 2 to 2:30, you know. So you don't get a ton of fishing time like you do on the 39-hour trip. We're targeting more of those bigger fish. So a couple of those red grouper, scamp grouper, and a handful of mangrove snapper, and maybe a yellowtail or vermilion is what you could expect on a 12-hour extreme trip. Whereas on a 39-hour trip, you're going to get a nice big stringer of mangroves, porgies, almacos, a bunch of different things, and then potentially some of those red grouper too. So a little different for sure, because it's just a shorter amount of fishing time on a much shorter trip. Time frame, at least. You're fishing similar areas for sure. Scott Flynn, appreciate those stars, buddy. Thanks, man. All right, with that, we're gonna put a wrap on this thing and get rolling on our supporters after show. But don't worry, we're gonna give away our last free trip of the night before we move on. Let's see here. Don't forget about our Fox 13 news segments every Friday morning, 6 a.m. or 8:15 a.m. every Friday morning. Don't forget about our radio shows, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. every Saturday. And then our Sunday night live stream show, 8:30 p.m. Definitely want to join us for those. Next weekend, though, the weekend coming up, April 30th, May 1st, I will not be doing a live show. Next weekend kicks off the first time in over 3 years since before the birth of my son that I am taking some time off of work to enjoy a personal vacation with my family. So super excited. No live show. Sunday, May 1st. First vacation in over 3 years. So wish me luck. Wish me luck. I don't even know how to vacation. I've forgotten. It's been that long, but definitely could use a little bit of time away from work. So looking forward to that. Hope you forgive me taking next weekend off of the live show. But we will do our Fox 13 segment next week. We won't be doing the radio show myself or the live show May 1st. But then we'll get right back into it May 8th. So no live show this upcoming weekend. The following weekend, we're right back into it. Also, keep in mind, our supporters after show is going to start up at 9 9:50. So 9:50. We're going to start that supporters after show. Hopefully you can join us for the supporters after show. Also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Gator Jim's Tackle, 3301 Pinellas Point Drive South in St. Pete. Thank you, Gator Jim's, for supporting our show and making this possible. Also want to give a shout out to our other friends and sponsors and partners at the Real Animals Radio Show, Yamaha Outboards, Yamaha Motor USA, Bass Pro Shops, Engel Coolers, Salt Strong, Aquatic Nutrition, Sport Fishing Chum, Cleanse Oil, and Bull Bay Rods. And then also don't forget to check out Hubbard's Marina on TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Nextdoor, Trovo, and Twitch. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Thanks for hanging out and joining us tonight. Hopefully everybody had a good time. And if I didn't get to your questions, I will try to get to them after the show. And supporters, make sure you join us 9:50 on the supporters page for the supporters after show. If you're not a supporter, you can join tonight right on the top of our Facebook page. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Let's see who won our free 39-hour fishing trip for one guest. Free 39-hour fishing trip for one guest. Winner is Dennis Woodcocks from Holiday, Florida. Dennis Woodcocks from Holiday, Florida, congratulations on a free 39-hour trip for one guest. Saw a lot of questions. I am planning to fish on my trip. I asked my wife, and she laughed at me because my friend runs a party boat out of Destin, and I have a lot of charter captain buddies in Panama City and Destin, and the area we're going is kind of right between the two. So I kind of hinted around that I wanted to do a fishing trip, and she laughed at me. But they do have some inshore fishing around and some beach fishing, and I'm definitely bringing a fishing pole because it'll be fun to escape and walk the beach in the early morning and see the sunrise from a different vantage point. It'll be a little weird seeing the sunrise on a different part of the sky, walking on the beach, and throwing some lures. So we'll see what pops up. If you're in the supporters group, we'll try to share some photos, and appreciate everybody joining us tonight. We'll see the supporters at 9:50 for that after show. Y'all have a great night. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us and joining. We'll see you in 2 weeks for another episode of the live stream show.